Hello and welcome to the Blorecast, your regular serving of aural entertainment with me, James Blore. As I record this, it's the night before I go back to work after a luxurious Christmas holiday. So I'm just going to do a quick one today and do a little bit of feedback on the videos that I released over the holiday period, which was one about comparing Slovak and British Christmas, and the other one was 5 ways in which Slovakia is definitely better than the UK. Quite enjoyed making both of them, and the second one in particular I really poured quite a lot into because I wanted to make a good job of it. I think I've done enough complaining about Slovakia in my time here, and Slovakia has been good enough to me that I owe something and I wanted to give something back. And in these dark times, I think we have far too much negativity. So I wanted to really, think of some ways which I could absolutely, genuinely defend in which Slovakia really is better than the UK. And I thought about it for such a long time. I was like 2 weeks thinking of this list. The first 4 were pretty easy, and the last one I wasn't too sure of. And then I spent a long time learning about how to make a better quality video using my camera, which hopefully this is, and quite a short time actually recording it, and then tons of time actually editing it and doing what are called punch-ins, which is the sort of little zooms that people do when you do a cut. Anyway, I learned loads, and I hope you enjoyed the video. There was a lot of feedback on it, some on YouTube, but also on Instagram, because I cut it up into the 5 sections and posted them individually as, what are they called, reels on Instagram. And they got quite a lot of feedback there, quite a lot of comments, and it was all very interesting. So I just thought I'd go through the different parts of the 2 videos and do a little bit of feedback on the comments that I received from the public, from you. Thank you. On the Christmas one, not really that much to say. Surprise, surprise, Slovak people prefer Slovak Christmas and I prefer British Christmas on the whole, though I think I did give the victory on balance to Slovakia. One thing that several people pointed out was that I said Slovaks don't eat birds on Christmas Day because there's an association between eating birds and good luck flying out of the window. And I was corrected by several people who said that's more associated with New Year's. And they're probably right. Who am I to argue? I did look it up. There is some connection with the Christmas period generally, but yeah, it is more of a New Year's thing. So sorry about that. Also, there was a lot of love for medové rezi, which it was confirmed are a proper Christmas cake. So I'm glad about that. And I had a really interesting question on YouTube about why turkey replaced goose in Britain as a sort of Christmas bird. Goose and duck, I guess. If you want to read the answer to that, I suggest you go and check it out on YouTube. It was quite interesting, but I won't drag it out here just now. So that was the Christmas one, and then there was the 5 ways in which Slovakia is better, which was, first way was practicality and pragmatism. This is the last one I settled on, not because I'm pretty sure that Slovak people are, on average, more practical and pragmatic than British people. But it is a bit of a two-edged sword because in a lot of ways, Slovak people have had to be more practical because of the nature of communism, and more pragmatic because of the nature of the systems which may or may not work flawlessly in Slovakia. However, I am always in admiration of people who are able to fix things and the so-called technické typy. I think on the whole, most people agreed. And there were a couple of great stories about one of them was in response to my saying that, if your boiler breaks down at 3 o'clock in the morning, you're better off married to a Slovak. And it turns out that somebody had had exactly that experience. I'm going to read this story to you. This is from Instagram. You reminded me of an unexpected snowy night in the UK some 20 years ago, just before Christmas. Honestly, it's like the nativity. The central heating boiler broke down in the apartment of my pregnant neighbour. The plumbers were unavailable. They said it would be 3 days and it would cost £100. He called a local friend, but the local friend couldn't help either. But luckily, the local DIY shop, we would call it B&Q, like Hornbach or something in Slovakia, was open. I found what I needed for the cost of £9, and in 10 minutes, the apartment started to get warm again. Oh, that's great. That's absolutely perfect example. And the second one was a Slovak woman living in Japan. The bathroom sink had been clogged for a week. She was tired of waiting for her husband, who was Japanese, to do something about it. And so she did a quick Google search and learned how to fix it. So she unscrewed the bottom of the pipe, sorted it all out, removed the chopsticks that their toddler had put in there, screwed it back on, and washed her hands, and it was all done. And she went back to brag to her husband about how good it was. So there were plenty of stories about how great Slovaks are at fixing things. And you are, let's be honest, certainly a lot better than me. The second thing that Slovaks are definitely better at was multilingualism and knowing lots of languages. A few people mentioned that I should have called out Polish, Romani, and Russian as languages that Slovaks often speak, and I'm sure I should. Someone else called me out for not explicitly mentioning some of the British languages that British people can speak, such as Irish, Welsh, and Gaelic. Fair enough. They're pretty low percentages, but they're definitely there, and I'm sorry I didn't mention them specifically. Somebody was talking about the dialects of Slovak being worth mentioning, because obviously in Slovakia there are lots and lots of dialects. There are lots of different words, different vocabulary in each of those dialects. And the example given was for potatoes. Lots and lots of words for potatoes. My favourite would be bandurki, but there are indeed others. But the biggest controversy of the whole thing was who I attributed the quote about languages to and how I translated. In terms of attribution, a couple of people suggested that other people were responsible for that quote, not Masaryk. Somebody suggested Taras Shevchenko. There was also Gregory Skovoroda and also Goethe. And when I was looking into it, it was clearly thought by some people to be like a proverb from their country, whether it's the Czech Republic or Armenia or somewhere else. And I'm sure there are similar sounding proverbs from all over the world. At the end of the day, I don't think it matters that much. It was the spirit that I wished to convey, which was that, speaking multiple languages gives you more empathy and more insight into people's thinking. And I don't think it matters too much who said it. Plus, there doesn't seem to be any definitive evidence about who it actually was. So I just picked the one that I thought was most relevant here, which was Tomáš Masaryk. And I did say when I was speaking that it's often attributed to him, and I put a little note on my graphic saying maybe, just to indicate that I did do the research. I did look into these things. Anyway, so forgive me if that was not necessarily entirely accurate. Much more controversial was the actual translation that I used. When I was doing the research, I was aware that there were multiple possible translations, and I've heard it many times over the 27 years I've been here. And honestly, I've never been 100% happy with the translations. They all sound a bit dodgy to me. But I looked into it, and the one that I used was the more languages you know, the more human you are. Some people definitely would have preferred the more literal translation. The more languages you know, the more times you are a person. Well, okay. I don't think either one of them sounds great. I think the second one sounds worse and much more word for word. More than anything else, I think the one that I didn't use, the second one about being multiple people, if it's just saying that when you speak a different language, you adopt a different personality, that may or may not be true, depending who you are, but it's relatively superficial. I think it's much more important. The much more important point is that when you take the time to learn other languages, your brain processes things in different ways. You do have that insight that is not afforded to people who have not taken the time to learn those languages. Anyway, write in the comments, which translation do you prefer, and does it matter who I attributed it to? The third section was traditions, and I don't think there was too much argument really about that. Slovakia has more in the way of living traditions than the UK does. The one point of controversy maybe was that I said in a slightly disgruntled way that I don't have a name day. Oh, poor me. Honestly, please don't feel sorry for me. I think I quite enjoy saying that I don't have a name day. I quite enjoy being different. I'm a bit perverse like that. But some people wrote nicely and said, you do have a name day. It's on the 25th of July, I think, and it's Jakub. Because Jakub is in the Slovak Bible the disciple that is James in the British translation or the English translation of the Bible. Sure, yeah, I can well believe that, and if I really wanted a name day, then I'm pretty sure that I could celebrate Jakub. But firstly, I'm perverse and I don't want a name day. Secondly, I'm not really Jakub, so it would feel a bit strange celebrating on that day. Anyway, so thank you for your concern, those people who did write in. The fourth section was about food and how there is far more processed food in the UK than in Slovakia, and that's not a good thing. And I think there was general consensus on that, nothing controversial. And the final category that I talked about was nature, which was perhaps the most controversial of all of them, really, because both countries have fantastic countryside. No doubt about it. And in some sense, as I said on the video, Britain has coastline, which Slovakia doesn't. And so I think maybe the variety that is available in Britain is actually slightly more impressive. Although, I know you have the Tatry, but, there is also Scotland. So both countries have great countryside. I gave the win to Slovakia in the end because of access. You have great marked trails and you have quite good public transport to some of those trails, I think. And whereas in England, you just need a car to get everywhere. And cities and towns are smaller in Slovakia, so it's easier to get out into the countryside. Also because you have better weather in which to enjoy your countryside, and you actually have more countryside. There are more forests and more mountainous and highland areas in Slovakia by far than there are in Britain, and also fewer people per square kilometre. The population density here is lower, and so you're less likely to meet people. And I would stand by all of that. All of that is absolutely true. But somebody wrote a very interesting reply on YouTube, which I'm going to read to you. Your video is very informative and the comparisons you make are largely fair, although I have to disagree somewhat with the point about nature. I absolutely love the natural landscape in the UK. Wherever you go, north, east, west or south, you encounter lush green meadows and carefully maintained footpaths, such as the South Downs and Sussex Downs, dramatic coastal cliffs and charming seaside towns perched on hillsides, Cornwall, Devon or the Jurassic Coast. Rolling countryside, the Cotswolds, and breathtaking lakes and national parks like the Lake District, Peak District and Snowdonia. What stands out to me the most is how consciously people in the UK look after their countryside. Public footpaths are respected, landscapes are protected, littering is socially unacceptable, and there is a strong culture of preservation, access rights and environmental responsibility. In comparison, while Slovakia undoubtedly has beautiful and dramatic nature, I have often felt that it is not always treated with the same level of care or long-term vision. Very well written. What can I say? Excellently written, and all of those points well taken. Yes. And someone else also wrote on Instagram about Scotland and how they really enjoy the Scottish countryside, and also the fact that there are not marked paths makes for a sort of mental challenge where you can use maps and compasses and stuff, which they actually quite enjoyed. And they pointed out that, or they felt, although I disagree, that bears are actually a disadvantage. The fact that they don't have bears in Scotland is an advantage because you don't get chased by them. But I think that bears are cool. And until the day that I'm eaten by one, I suspect I will underestimate. I think that the danger, as I've mentioned in previous videos, the danger of bears is somewhat exaggerated. Ticks, on the other hand. But then in Scotland, I don't know if they have a problem with Lyme disease, but they definitely do have a problem with little flying creatures, which are sort of similar to mosquitoes, but smaller. And they're called midges, or I think she called them midgies. And you can just come back covered in little bites, which it's like crazy. So yes, absolutely great points, well made by everyone. And please just go out and enjoy the countryside in both countries. And we should do more to protect ours in Slovakia, I think. Okay, I should probably stop there. So thank you very much for joining me. Thank you very much to everyone who commented and watched the videos. I'll be back soon in a week or so with another hot topic for you. Until then, thank you very much for joining me. Don't forget to like, subscribe and all those good YouTubery things. And I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.